Why does Lee Marvin still hang out with Ernest Borgnine, aka Mr. Ugly and Hollywood's biggest sex hound? Lamont Waldman was Lee Marvin's birth name, born on February 19, 1924, in New York City. Marvin's early years were full of trouble and defiance. He was the son of Lamont Waldman Marvin, who ran an ad agency and served in World War I, and Courtney Washington, who wrote about fashion and gave beauty advice. Even though he came from a good family, he was a rebellious and unhappy kid. Marvin joined the U.S. Marine Corps during World War II after being kicked out of several schools. He served with honor in the Pacific area and was hurt during the Battle of Saipan. Not only did his time in the military change him physically, he walked with a small limp for the rest of his life, but it also changed him emotionally and mentally. This experience would later help him play soldiers and heroes of war with a rare level of realism and weight that not many actors could match. It was almost by chance that Marvin became an actor after the war. He was asked to fill in for a sick actor at a community theater in upstate New York, where he worked as a plumber's helper. That moment made me really want to act. He learned how to act at the American Theater Wing in New York City. In the 1950s, he started to appear in off-Broadway shows and live TV plays. In his early movies, he mostly played bad guys, henchmen, and other minor parts in westerns, war movies, and crime dramas. He was mostly cast as a big for years, but just being there made even small roles stand out. The Big Heat, which came out in 1953, was his big break. It was his brutal performance as a cruel mob boss that got both viewers and critics' attention. In the 1960s, Lee Marvin's star really started to rise when he started getting lead parts that showed off both how intense he was and how versatile he was. One of his best-known and most adored roles was as the tough Major John Reisman in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, a war movie about a group of military prisoners sent on a suicide mission behind enemy lines. His real-life combat experience gave him more credibility in the part, and he became an anti-hero for a generation that was disappointed by how war is usually portrayed in movies and TV shows. The movie was a huge hit and cemented his reputation as the perfect tough leader who earned respect through actions, not words. Marvin did not only work in serious war or crime movies, though. In the 1965 Western parody Cat Belalu, in which he played both a drunk cowboy and his evil brother, he surprised everyone by being a very funny actor. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor for a performance that was both funny and clever. It is one of the most famous scenes that Marvin, dressed as a cowboy, slouches drunkenly on a horse, making the horse perfectly imitate his stance. That one funny line showed how versatile he was as an actor and showed that he was more than just a tough guy. During the 1970s, Marvin kept working regularly in both movies and TV shows. He was in Point Blank, 1967, Hell in the Pacific, 1968, with Toshiro Mifune, and Emperor of the North, 1973. His parts often dealt with loneliness, being a man, and violence. These movies helped create the dark and ethically gray tone of movies at that time. His characters were not heroes in the usual sense. Instead, they were flawed, dark guys who had been through terrible things and were going through a lot of inner turmoil. Marvin was naturally good at showing pain and power through body language and little speech. This made him a favorite of directors and screenwriters who wanted to find an authentic actor. Lee Marvin was known for his rough charm, his love of fishing, and his strong morals when he wasn't acting. He did not follow the rules of Hollywood and often got into fights with the people who worked there. It was well known that he turned down parts that he thought were below him, even if it meant losing money or fame. Besides that, he fought for fair treatment and equal pay for his fellow players and crew members. Even though he seemed tough, Marvin was said to be thoughtful, smart, and self-aware. Besides acting, he spoke out about politics. He backed liberal causes and joined the civil rights movement when many artists chose to stay quiet. At the time, Lee Marvin was starting to become known as an actor in Hollywood. In April 1952, he married Betty Ebling. The early years of Marvin's rise to fame were made more stable by his relationship with Betty, a stylish and smart woman who liked living a quiet life. 4 children were born to them after they got married. The first was a son named Christopher Lamont Marvin. 1952. Christopher went on to become a successful man in his own right before he died in 2013. They also had 3 girls, whose names were Courtney Lee, Cynthia Louise, and Claudia Leslie. The youngest was born in 2003 and died in 2012, a sad loss. The family tried to keep their kids away from the heavy public attention that was on Marvin's acting career by living in relative privacy. There were signs of trouble in the marriage, even though the family seemed happy, on the outside. Because of his job, Marvin had to be away from home for long periods of time. The stress of Hollywood's social scene and his tough independent nature started to hurt their relationship. The couple broke up for 2 years after going through a long time of mental distance and personal problems. After 15 years of marriage, they finally got a divorce in January 1967. Betty Ebling talked about her relationship with the famous actress in later years. Tales of a Hollywood Housewife, a book by the first Mrs. Lee Marvin, which came out in 2010, was an honest and often moving look back at her years with Marvin. In the book, she shockingly revealed that Lee had been having an affair with famous actor Anne Bravtoft. This accusation made Marvin's already complicated personal life even more interesting. Ebling's book showed both the happy and sad times in their relationship, showing the inner battles of Marvin that people only saw in his tough exterior. After breaking up with Betty and getting into a public court battle with Michelle Traola, Marvin went back to his past in a way that was both unexpected and important. He got in touch with Pamela Feely, a woman he knew and loved when he was younger. When they started dating again, it turned into a strong relationship, and in 1970, they got married. Marvin was in a more settled and thoughtful time in his life during his relationship with Pamela than during his first marriage. The couple found comfort in each other's company and lived a quieter life away from the excitement and chaos of Hollywood. They lived in Tucson, Arizona, where Marvin liked to fish, read and support causes for soldiers, which made him think of his own time in the military during World War II. For the last 17 years of his life, Pamela was always by his side, even when his health got worse and his work changed directions. As soon as Lee Marvin died in 1987, Pamela wanted to do something very special to remember and honor him. In 1997, she wrote Lee, a romance that was both an emotional and lyrical account of their journey together. She wrote the book to honor her husband's reputation as a tough guy movie star, but it was also a tender look at the man who was a lover, friend, and husband behind the roles. Pamela's writing gave friends and readers a rare personal look into Lee Marvin's emotional depth, flaws and enduring charm. Their love story will live on forever in the form of literature. During its golden age, Hollywood was full of glitz, grit, and characters who were bigger than life. But even among the swaggering stars of that time, Lee Marvin was one of the few with the raw charm and off-screen charm that made him stand out. Marvin was a man's man who was known for playing tough guys in gritty war movies and westerns. Even though they had different personalities, Marvin was a cool, tough guy with a gravelly voice and a simmering intensity, and Borgnine was a friendly, gap-toothed firecracker who was kindly, and somewhat ironically, called Mr. Ugly. Their friendship was strong and deep, and it stood the test of time and Hollywood's legendary lack of trust. They became friends in the early 1960s, around the time they were cast together in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, a World War II action movie that became one of the most famous group pieces of the time. Marvin played the tough Major Reisman, and Borgnine played the General Warden. On set, their mutual respect turned into friendship. Marvin, who had been in real battle as a Marine in the Pacific during World War II, found a friend in Borgnine, who had also been in the Navy for over 10 years before becoming an actor. Outside of the movie, they looked nothing alike. Marvin was private most of the time. He drank a lot and had a hard time dealing with the bad parts of fame. He would sometimes get moody and think about himself. On the other hand, Borgnine was open and honest. He was loud and happy all the time, and he was always making jokes. He was also known for having a hearty laugh and a huge desire for life, especially when it came to women. He was called Mr. Ugly because he was funny with himself and could charm women even though he wasn't the typical matinee hero. His 5 marriages, one of which was to singer Ethel Merman and lasted only 32 days, and many other relationships became famous in Hollywood. But Marvin never thought badly of Borg's reputation for chasing women. He liked how honest and full of life his friend was without any apologies. Marvin knew that everyone dealt with fame and their own demons in their own unique way because he had his own complicated relationships. It was nice to see Borgnine's dedication and honest personality in a town where people often lied and didn't care about others. And didn't care about others. Aside from that, they both thought Hollywood was fake. Both men had seen the bad sides of business, like how it could be manipulated, how it could get political, and how much pressure there was to keep up a perfect public image. Marvin liked Borg because he didn't try to be someone he wasn't. Marvin often wouldn't play the studio game himself. Marvin felt better when he was with Borg, whether it was because of his crazy stories or his tendency to laugh in the face of chaos. They were honest with each other more than with most other people. With most other people. They were friends for decades, long after they were no longer in the press and had fewer responsibilities. They were often seen joking around with each other at veteran events, charity golf games, and old Hollywood reunions, laughing like they were back on the set of The Dirty Dozen. Marvin once said that Borgnine was one of Hollywood's last real guys. You got what you saw. What about Borgnine? He often talked about Marvin with love, like he was a brother. Even though they were getting old, Marvin died in 1987. Through interviews and talks, Borgnine kept his friend's memory alive. He never said he wasn't a womanizer or said sorry for it, and Marvin never asked him to. Their friendship wasn't based on similar views on relationships or ways of life. It was made through war movies, and a deep understanding of how complicated life is. In the end, Marvin and Ernest Borg were two examples of a type of Hollywood man that is quickly going extinct. Flawed, unapologetic, and fiercely faithful. Their friendship wasn't based on being perfect, but on being real. That's the main reason why Marvin stayed close with Borgnine, who called himself Mr. Ugly, and was always a bad guy in old Hollywood. For a lot of his adult life, Marvin had major health problems that got worse because of the way he lived. Marvin smoked a lot and often. He was never seen without a cigarette in his hand, on or off the screen. His thick, gruff voice, which became one of his trademarks, was partly caused by smoking for many years. Some people knew Marvin for smoking and others knew him for drinking. His heavy drinking was well known in Hollywood, and he often acted like the tough guy roles he played in movies when he wasn't acting. His health got worse over time because of these long-term habits, especially as he got older. Around the middle of the 1980s, Marvin's smoking and drinking started to have a big effect on his health. His health started to get worse quickly, and he became more likely to get sick. In December 1986, Marvin had to stay in the hospital for more than 2 weeks because of a serious illness connected to coccidioidomycosis, a fungus infection widely known as valley fever. People get this disease by breathing in spores from a fungus that lives in dry soil, especially in the southwestern United States in places like California and Arizona, where Marvin often went for personal trips and filming. It was really hard on Marvin's lungs, because he was sick. He had a lot of problems with his lungs and finally went into respiratory distress, a condition that is life-threatening because the lungs can't get enough oxygen to the body. Doctors gave him large amounts of corticosteroids to try to stabilize his situation and make it easier for him to breathe. Even though these drugs are often necessary to treat inflammation and strong immune reactions, they can have serious side effects, especially if they are taken in large amounts or for a long time. In the case of Marvin, the drugs made his intestinal wall much weaker, which caused major intestinal ruptures. This needed surgery right away, and doctors did a colectomy, which is when all or part of the colon is surgically removed. Such a treatment can seriously change someone's life, and comes with its own risks, especially for someone who is already not in good health. Marvin lived through the surgery, but it did a lot of damage to his body, and he never fully recovered his health. He died of a heart attack in Tucson, Arizona, on August 29, 1987. He was 63 years old. His death put an end to an amazing, if sometimes rough, life and work. Marvin had heart failure after his health had been getting worse for years because of his lifestyle, medical problems, and old age. Many people in the entertainment business were saddened by his death, because they had admired him for both his acting and his service to his village. To his